Lady TV, and we're live now on YouTube as well. Thanks for tuning in to the Incredible Lady TV. Today is chapter 2 in our book series, Book of the Week Wednesday with Think and Grow Rich. And so last week, I love the way this book sums up the last chapter with a simple thought. And it says, last week it was thoughts are things. Whatever the mind of man can conceive and believe, it can achieve. And I love that. I love that statement. What power that must give us, that what we can think about, we can bring into our reality. Okay, so chapter 2 is all about desire. And I thought a little bit about this chapter because for me, this chapter is kind of like common sense. They do have kind of a roadmap in here, which I will share with you today. For getting what it is that you want, that you deserve in life. And I really enjoyed this chapter, but like I said, it was kind of like common sense to me. So I debated with myself whether I just go ahead and read you the whole chapter on today's video and, you know, put a 1 down below if you'd prefer me read the chapters out to you and then have a little discussion afterwards. But I'm just going to flip through here first, though, and just kind of give a summary. And like I said, there's something magical about having the book in your hands or even having it to reference. I really encourage you to please go and pick yourself up a copy of Think and Grow Rich. It's an incredibly influential book for yourself and your success. Okay, so chapter 2 is all about desire. So if you want something and you want to make it happen, there is something so inert. You have to have the desire to have it, right? So without desire, you're never going to achieve success. So and for me, like, that's common sense, right? If I don't actually want something, I'm not going to have it. But if you really want something, there's the desire, and therefore you go into the process in getting it. But he does leave the roadmap, so we'll go into that here. Okay, so he talks about Edwin C. Barnes, the good friend of Thomas Edison, or, well, not good friend. He became a good friend. Didn't know him, thoughts are things. He started thinking about what he wanted, and he made himself a business associate of the great Thomas Edison. Well, what they're talking about here is that pretty much what Edwin did to get what he wanted is he had that desire, and then he burned all the bridges behind him, right? So he had the desire, and he burned those bridges. So he didn't say, hey, you know, if this works out, great, but if it doesn't, I'm just going to go work for another company that might pay me a little bit more. No, he went in, full committed after, you know, and worked for 5 years before he ever saw a glimmer of hope of having that which he really wanted, which was to be the business associate, not just another person in line in the business of Thomas Edison. He wanted to be he didn't want to just be his associate. He wanted to work with him as a partner. And he was able to achieve that after 5 years of no hope of seeing that, just being an associate, you know, just working, you know, as a worker. So he had that incredible desire, and he burnt all of his bridges, and he said, look, I am going to go into business with him, and he made it happen, okay? He left himself no possible way of retreat. He had to win or perish, period. Okay, the spur that drives riches is the next section. And in this section, he talks again about the burning the bridges. He says, you know, there was once a great warrior, and they took ships to go defeat their foe. And when they did this, they arrived on shore and they burned their boats. And he said, listen, if we don't win, we don't leave this island alive. If we don't win, we don't leave, you know, we're burning the ships. And so they won because they knew that they had no recourse, that there was no way out. And that puts a burning desire in you like no other. So what you have to do is cut all ties. If you're going to make something happen, you really have to just, boom, cut those ties and go for it with all of your heart. No matter what someone says or what someone tells you, you just have to go for it. And that's pretty much what he's saying right here in this book. Okay. 6 ways to turn desires into gold. This is the action plan. Are you ready for this? This gives you the action plan. Ready? All right. So I'm going to just read this one to you because it's very concrete. 6 ways to turn desires into gold. The method by which desire for riches can be transmuted into its financial equivalent consists of 6 definite practical steps. First, fix in your mind the exact amount of money you desire. It's not sufficient merely to say, I want plenty of money. Define as to the amount. There is a psychological reason for definiteness, which will be described in a subsequent chapter. So you have to know exactly what it is that you want. You have to have that number. You can't just say, oh, I want to be, rich. That's not enough. That's not going to get you to where you want. You have to have that definiteness of purpose, that definiteness of what you want. Pick a number and stick to it, until you attain it, and then do it again. So number 1, pick a number. Or pick that goal. Pick what it is that you want. But make it precise. Don't just throw it out there. Second, determine exactly what you intend to give in return to for the money you desire. There is no such reality as something for nothing. Listen to me, my RevShare people. That business has a 2-year business model. And it's going to be here today, gone tomorrow. Here today, gone in 2 years. I've seen a lot of people get hurt, and I've watched the business model every time a new one launches. Yeah, you'll make a lot of money. Yeah, you'll have that compound interest. In fact, it's just mathematically impossible, and that's why they always collapse. There is no such reality as something for nothing. So define what it is. Okay, and I'm talking about home-based business, rev sharing. It's essentially Ponzi schemes. I'm not talking about legitimate home-based, product-based, service-based businesses that help people all over, nor am I talking about concrete brick-and-mortar businesses as well. Okay, so there is there is no such reality as something for nothing. So determine what is it you're going to give. How many hours per week? How much, what are you going to invest? What is it that you're going to sacrifice in order to have what you want? Maybe you're not going to go out to eat every night of the week and you're going to stay in and focus. Maybe you're going to give up that TV show series that you super love and really going to focus on your business. Maybe you're going to give up, whatever it is, whether it be time or whatever it may be to help you to attain your goals. So that's number 2. So number 1, have the number in mind, have the goal in mind, exactly what you want. Number 2, determine what it is that you're going to give in order to attain it. Number 3, establish a definite date when you intend to possess the money you desire or the goal that you desire. So look at your calendar. Yeah, guess what? If you want something, you're going to have to open up your calendar book and you're going to have to schedule it in, or you'll never have what you want. You have to do this. There's something magical that happens when you put things on paper. Okay, so establish a definite date when you intend to possess this. Number 4, create a definite plan for carrying out your desire. Begin at once, whether you're ready or not, to put this plan into action. Let me tell you something. There is never a right time to start. There is never a right time to start. Things are always going to be crazy. You're always going to have this thing pop up or that thing pop up. It's never going to be 100% the perfect time to do something. If you want something, you have to go for it regardless of what else is out there and what else might be standing in your way or not the right time or what have you. You just have to go for it. 5th, write out a clear, concise statement of the amount of money you intend to require. Name the time limit for its acquisition. State what you intend to give in return for the money, and describe clearly the plan through which you intend to accumulate it. So what is that saying? It's saying that what I just said, magic happens when you put it on paper. It's saying, what Napoleon Hill is saying here is that what you have to do is figure all this out and put it on paper. 6th, read your written statement out loud twice daily. Once just before retiring at night and once after arising in the morning. As you read, see and feel and believe yourself already in possession of the money or the goal or whatever it is that you want to attain. Okay? Sounds a little hokey, sounds a little weird. Well, if thoughts are things, then that isn't true. And this book and the numerous people who have backed it are definite proof that this works. It's important that you follow the instructions described in these 6 steps. It's especially important that you observe and follow the instructions in the 6th paragraph. What'd I tell you? You may complain that it's impossible for you to see yourself in possession of money before you actually have it. Here is where a burning desire will come to your aid. If you truly desire money so keenly that your desire is an obsession, you will have no difficulty in convincing yourself that you will acquire it. The object is to want money and become so determined to have it that you convince yourself that you will have it. Now, this was kind of a stumbling block for me because when I first heard this years ago, I was thinking to myself, well, what about, the love of money and the desire of money? That's a bad thing, right? Because, the Bible says that the love of money is pure evil. Yes, the love of it. There's a difference between love and desire. Because when we're talking about financial things, when we're talking about money, a lot of times there's an emotional attachment that is linked to where that person's perception of money is. What is that person's relationship of money? I was listening to a lady, and I cannot remember her name. I was listening to her TED Talk, look it up, and she was saying, if money were a person, and they were walking down the street looking at you, what would he or she look like? And how would you feel towards that person? If you would feel angry, if you would feel jealous, if you would feel great, if that's going to tell you what kind of relationship that you have with money. And that will explain why this stuff might be a little bit uncomfortable for you. You have to get that out of the way. Because if you're uncomfortable, if you're not happy with, if you have no way of desiring because you think it's wrong, then you will never have it. Money is not a bad thing. It's simply a tool. Is it bad for a mechanic to have a toolbox? No, because otherwise he can't do the work that he needs to do to help people. You understand that? So money is not an evil thing. It is a tool that will allow you to do what you need to do your work in this world, to allow you to survive even, to allow you to help people. A lot of people think that money is evil. It's just a tool. And a lot of people think that, oh, money, that it changes people. I've got news for you. Money doesn't change people. It just amplifies the person that they currently are. If you give a good man a lot of money, guess what? He's going to go do good things with it because now he has the resources to do with it who he actually is. Your hands are an extension of your heart. So if your hands are an extension of your heart and you now have more resources within which to do the work that you were put here to do, if you give a bad man money, what is he going to do? He now has more resources to do bad things. So just keep that in mind. Get that out of the way. All right. Can you imagine yourself a millionaire? To the uninitiated who has not been schooled in the working principles of the human mind, these instructions may appear impracticable. It may be helpful to all who fail to recognize the soundness of the 6 steps to know that the information they convey was received from Andrew Carnegie, who began as an ordinary laborer in the steel mills, but managed, despite a humble beginning, to make these principles yield him a fortune of considerably more than $100 million. And this was in the 1920s, 1930s. That's a lot. He'd be a billionaire today. It may be of further help to know that the 6 steps here recommended were carefully scrutinized by the late Thomas Edison, who placed a stamp of approval upon them as being not only the steps essential for the accumulation of money, but also for the attainment of any goal. The steps call for no hard labor. They call for no sacrifice. They do not require one to be ridiculous or credulous, but to apply them calls for no great amount of education. But the successful application of these 6 steps does call for sufficient imagination to enable one to see and to understand that accumulation of money cannot be left to chance, good fortune, and luck. One must realize that all who have accumulated great fortunes first did a certain amount of dreaming, hoping, wishing, desiring, and planning before they acquired money. You may as well know right here that you can never have riches in great quantities unless you work yourself into a white heat of desire for money and actually believe that you will possess it. That's where the sixth step. He said it's absolutely important that you carry out that sixth step. And the sixth step is, I'll just read it again for you. Read your written statement out loud twice daily, once in the morning, once in the evening. And see, feel, and believe yourself already in possession of the money. So, the power of great dreams. You ready for this? Napoleon Hill actually had a son who was born without ears. I learned this when I first read this book years ago. And it's really interesting because he desired that his son would hear. His son had no equipment for ears. He did not have ears. He was born without the appearance of them. He was born without inner ear canal bones, like the hammer, anvil, and stirrup, the things that vibrate, that make sound, that our brains recognize. As you read through this chapter, as I encourage you to get this or to listen to it, you can read it, listen to it here on YouTube for free. For those of you on Facebook, you can go to YouTube and hear that for free. It's in the public domain, and listen to it regularly. Follow along with this. You can just Napoleon Hill chapter 2 is what we're doing here, and you get to hear the story of how this little boy was able to attain hearing, and now, worked his whole life helping those who were unable to hear to be able to hear, and that supplied for him not only a incredible not only an incredible income, but also it filled his purpose for the world. Can you imagine how much hope that he was able to give so many people because of his experience? Because, he was born without ears, was told he'd never be able to hear or talk, and was able to do so. Amazing. I just want to read you this one section because he explains the principles that he applied to put that desire to hear in his son from a very early age, and that actually materialized into him actually being able to hear because the desire was there for him, his father and himself. Where is that one section? It was like 6 cents. Nope, that's 6 ways. He won a new world with 6 cents. As I analyze the experience in retrospect, I can see that my son's faith in me had much to do with the astounding results. He did not question anything I told him. I sold him the idea that he had a distinct advantage over his older brother, and that this advantage would reflect itself in many ways. For example, the teachers in school would observe that he had no ears, and because of this, they would show him special attention and treat him with extraordinary kindness, and they always did. I sold him on the idea, too, that when he became old enough to sell newspapers, his older brother had already become a newspaper merchant, he would be able to have a big advantage over his brother for the reason that people would pay him extra money for his wares because they could see that he was a bright, industrious boy, despite the fact that he had no ears. When he was about 7, he showed the first evidence of our method of servicing his mind was bearing fruit. For several months, he begged for the privilege of selling newspapers, but his mother would not give the project her consent. Finally, he took matters into his own hands. One afternoon, when he was left at home with the servants, he climbed through the kitchen window, shimmied to the ground, and set out on his own. He borrowed 6 cents in capital from the neighborhood shoemaker, invested it in papers, sold out, reinvested, and kept repeating until late in the evening. After balancing his accounts and paying back the 6 cents he had borrowed from his banker, he had a net profit of 42 cents. When we got home that night, we found him in bed, asleep, with the money tightly clenched in his hand. His mother opened his hands, removed the coins, and cried. Of all things, crying over her son's first victory seems so inappropriate. My reaction was the reverse. I would have cried too. I would have been like, oh, my baby. Okay, so I laughed heartily, for I knew that my endeavor to implant in the child's mind an attitude of faith in himself had been successful. His mother saw in his first business venture a little deaf boy who had gone out into the streets and risked his life to earn money. I saw a brave, ambitious, self-reliant little businessman whose stock in himself had been increased 100% because he had gone into business on his own initiative and had won. The transaction pleased me because I knew that he had given evidence of a trait of resourcefulness that would go with him all through life. And like I said, now to this day, they help people, or they were helping people. I don't know if they're still alive, most likely, but they his life's mission was to help people who couldn't hear to be able to hear. And that is what it's all about. Yes, it helped him financially, but he was also able to do something that greatly moved him. And what they say is that if you love what you do, you'll never work a day in your life. So, what is it for you? I want to hear in the comments below. What is it for you that you want to do in this world? What are you passionate about? What moves you? What do you want to do? What is your desire? Put that in the comments below. I love to connect with you and hear all about what your desire is in this world, what you want to make happen, and then let's put into plan of action. Put a plan of action into place so that you can have it and so that you can change the world. You are awesome. Thanks for tuning in. Please subscribe. Hit that little bell notification so you get notifications when I go live. And I'll see you next Wednesday on Book of the Week Wednesday, where we go over Chapter 3. Go ahead and get your book on Amazon as well. On YouTube, the link is below to go ahead and get that. And I will see you on the next video. Bye, everyone.